Incredible millionaire discovers lost necklace worn by homeless boy. What he uncovers is transformative. Mark Thompson stared at the slick surfaces of his renovated properties across the town, a $1 million portfolio gleaming beneath the sun. What had once felt like triumph now felt like a weight on his chest. Success had been sweet, but it had morphed into a flavor he couldn't quite stomach. Each deal felt less like a victory and more like a betrayal of the lives he saw struggling behind the allure of his achievements. While alone in a run-down building, stripping wallpaper, his fingers brushed against something cold, metallic, half buried in the cracks of the floor. He knelt down, brushing off layers of dust, revealing a scuffed necklace, its once vibrant colors dulled by neglect. It was a child's necklace, frayed and forgotten. His heart raced. Who had it belonged to? A memory surfaced. A boy named Sam, a transient ghost from a statistic he had learned to ignore. Sam had dreams of becoming a scientist, ambitions edged out by harsh realities. This brief encounter with a boy he had never met knotted feelings of guilt in Mark's stomach. The contrast of Sam's dreams to Mark's achievements echoed loudly in his mind, a haunting reminder. How often had he turned his gaze away from painful truths buried under success? Each day, he walked the streets where children like Sam roamed, their dreams swiped away by indifference. Could he make a difference? Or was this just a self-serving attempt to alleviate his conscience, a phantom rabble-rouser lurking inside a polished millionaire facade? Days passed, where his old friends questioned why he was pouring money into a scholarship fund for underprivileged youth. They turned cynical, convinced that it was a mere appeasement of guilt rooted in his own success. "It's easy to throw money at the problem," they told him, voices dripping with disdain. "But it doesn't change what's broken." Each donation came with an unsought burden. As apprehensive as he was about their accusations, he felt a darker thrill igniting his intent. Could he truly become the change that Sam never got to see? The whisper of doubt settled in, and with it came the anger of his friends. Tension simmered. Could he be a hypocrite for seeking redemption in charity? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. The revelation was unbearable. Sam's mother still lived in the small town, crushed by a life that hadn't been kind to dreamers. The thought of reaching out sent a rush of uncertainty through him. Would she welcome his efforts or view him as an opportunist, cashing in on her pain? The idea of finally sharing her son's story twisted deep within him. Mark was changing, but so was his community's perception of him. The need for reconciliation coursed through his veins like adrenaline. As he prepared for the confrontation, the air held a suffocating weight. Would Sam's mother confirm his hopes or bring his worst fears to life? A moment danced at the edge of revelation, propelling him further into the abyss of his internal struggle, leaving Mark stuck between a longing to honor a boy lost too soon and the paralyzing fear of being exposed for the facade he had become. Formative. Mark clenched the necklace tightly, the edges biting into his palm as he fought the rising tide of anxiety. He could feel each breath trembling in his chest like a warning bell. Today was the day he would seek out Sam's mother. He had spent hours rehearsing his words in the mirror, trying to find just the right combination of sincerity and humility. But what if she only saw the former millionaire in him, the man who profited from luxury while her son faded into obscurity? As he drove to the unkempt part of town where the boy once roamed, Streetlights flickered sporadically, casting uneasy shadows across cracked sidewalks. Mark's transparently polished car seemed a world apart from the dilapidated buildings surrounding him. The gentrification of the town lingered in the air like an unsung melody, one that drowned out the lives it neglected. He parked in front of a small, faded house that bore the scars of hardship, peeling paint, overgrown weeds, and a broken fence. This was it. Mark stepped out, the crisp autumn air biting at his skin, his nerves electrified with doubt, yet propelled by determination. He walked up to the door, hesitating for a moment before raising his fist. Each knock reverberated deep in his chest, questioning his resolve. The door creaked open, revealing a woman whose face mirrored a blend of resilience and pain. Lines of struggle etched her forehead, yet her eyes held a glimmer of fierce strength. "Can I help you?" she asked, her voice steady but wary. "Mrs. Malone?" he managed, the name sounding foreign yet painfully familiar on his tongue. "I'm Mark Thompson. I knew Sam." At the mention of her son's name, her expression shifted subtly. Recognition stirred, but distrust veiled it quickly. "What do you want?" she demanded, crossing her arms tightly across her chest. Mark's throat tightened. "I wanted to honor his dreams, to tell you I've been trying to create something for kids like him. Scholarships for education, opportunities." "Opportunities," she interrupted, sarcasm laced in her tone. "Opportunities don't change the past, Mr. Thompson. What good is charity without accountability, without understanding?" The words struck harder than he anticipated. Did he truly understand? Had he ever truly seen? Mark felt the weight of her accusation sit heavily on his shoulders. "I'm sorry," he managed to say. "I didn't come here just to throw money at a problem. I want to understand how I can be a part of the solution." Mrs. Malone studied him, her gaze intensifying. For a moment, silence blanketed them, each grappling with their thoughts on breach and trust. "Talk," she finally commanded, stepping aside to let him in. "But know this, there's no easy fix to the lives we lead." Stepping inside her home felt like crossing a threshold into another world, one where each piece of furniture told stories of laughter mixed with echoes of despair. The walls were adorned with pictures of Sam, vibrant and full of life, a stark contrast to the exhaustion etched into his mother's face. Mark found himself drawn to one photograph in particular, a science fair image showcasing Sam's proud smile and a trophy gleaming at his side. It was a glimpse into what could have been, potent and painful. "I want to create a program that inspires kids to dream big like he did," Mark said, the words spilling out in a rush. "But I can't do that without knowing what they really need." Facing her, he noticed the flicker of hope in her expression, battling against the shadows of skepticism. Could this be the turning point? Could her hesitance transform into collaboration? "I don't trust people with money," she replied softly, a hint of vulnerability surfacing. "Too many promises fall flat." "Then let me prove it," Mark offered, an urgency igniting within him. "I want to work with you, not for you. I want this to be a community effort, not just a wealthy man's gesture." The air thickened and marked the resolve in his heart. It was a bold proposition, exposing his insecurities, but Mark sensed that the conversation was shifting. Yet doubt still lingered in the corners of his mind. Could he follow through? Was he ready to open himself to this kind of vulnerability? And then, from somewhere inside, Mark's phone buzzed with a notification, jolting him from his thoughts. His heart raced as he glanced at the screen. It was a message from a former associate, one that could either jeopardize everything he started here or propel it forward like a speeding train. As Mrs. Malone watched him expectantly, Mark faced a storm of choices. Would he take the road that could lead him to true change, or retreat back into the comfortable confines of his former life? The moment hung heavy in the air, full of potential and danger, ready to tip in either direction. The stakes felt monumental. Would this be a defining moment in which he proved himself, or would he fall back into patterns of denial and detachment? The path ahead remained murky, and Mark could feel the weight of his past pressing down as the future loomed large with uncertainty. Mark's pulse quickened as he read the message that slipped into focus. It was a short note from Adrian, his former business partner, stating that an investment opportunity had emerged, a venture that promised high returns and instant status if they reconnected. It was tempting, the hollow call of a familiar life echoing through him. He resisted the impulse to respond, forcing himself to listen to Mrs. Malone's breathing instead, grounding himself in the moment. This woman was offering him more than clarity. She was extending a bridge to redemption. He couldn't let the allure of his old life draw him away from what he was trying to build here. "Mark," she spoke, her voice cutting through his reverie, "you're not just looking to throw money at our problems. You want to work with us. What could that look like?" He looked into her eyes. There was challenge there, but also the faintest glimpse of partnership. "I think it starts with real conversations, listening to the kids, and understanding what barriers they face every day. I need to commit to this community, not just appear like some savior with a checkbook." There was a cautious spark in her expression, a hint of curiosity mingled with skepticism. He could see the flicker of hope battling against years of disillusionment. "And you think you can step down from your pedestal? You lived in that world for so long." "I've been blind," he admitted, feeling the vulnerability wash over him like ice water. "Life taught me hard lessons. I've seen the consequences of privilege and the shadows it casts. I don't want to be that guy anymore. I want to learn, to give back where I can." Mark saw her stance soften, her crossed arms relaxing slightly. He pressed on, feeling grounded and desperate to keep this communication in motion. "I want to meet the kids, hear their stories. I'm not trying to parachute in with solutions. I want to be a part of this fight, and I can't do that from a distance. I need your guidance." "Why should I trust you?" she fired back, her voice edged with hurt. "You shouldn't," Mark replied, instinctively leaning closer. "Trust isn't given, it's earned, and I have to prove myself. But if you give me a chance, I will push past my fears and do everything I can to support this community." A moment stretched between them, a battle of wills contending with hope's fragile stirrings. Her silence was heavy, but the skepticism in her eyes began to wane. "You want to help? Start by spending some time here. Every Saturday there's a tutoring group in the park for the kids. Show up and be human with them. No agenda, just connect." The thought resonated deeply within him, igniting a purpose that was absent for so long. He nodded, eager to accept the challenge. "I'll be there every week." "And if you don't?" she questioned, a steely edge returning, though it was tinged with an evolving respect. "Then you can kick me out. No hard feelings." Mark chuckled nervously, but the seriousness hung in the air. He felt weighty responsibility loom as he considered the myriad ways he could disappoint not only Mrs. Malone, but also the kids he wanted to help. Then, the incongruous vibration of his phone interrupted them again. Mark hesitated before pulling it from his pocket, the name flashing on the screen enough to drain the blood from his face. Adrian. His heart raced as he contemplated answering. The past was pulling at him again, whispering promises of the power he once wielded. Mrs. Malone watched him, her expression a blend of patience and anticipation. The choice was stark and illuminating. "Go ahead and answer," she said, an unexpected softness in her tone. "But choose wisely." Mark knew he was standing at a crossroads that could define his future, or ruin any attempt at authenticity. The moment was heavy with potential, every heartbeat reverberating within him. Would he answer the call of the past, or would he step boldly towards an uncertain future? In that fleeting instant, he realized he wasn't just battling external pressures, but also the internal conflict of who he had been versus who he wished to become. Would he let Adrian drag him back into a world built on transactions instead of transformation? As his thumb hovered over the screen, he caught a glimpse of Sam's photograph on the wall, a reminder of a legacy that could thrive through understanding. His decision loomed, charged and momentous. Mark's thumb trembled above the screen, suspended between two worlds. The vibrant buzz of possibility before him felt like a siren call: money, status, and the tantalizing thrill of old connections. Yet, as he stole a glance at Mrs. Malone, her face illuminated with an unguarded intensity, the gravity of his dilemma crystallized. He had spent years shaping his identity around a network of capitalization and dominion, but here, in this moment, he was confronted with a rawness that stung against his polished exterior. The kids he wanted to meet were living lives that begged his attention, while the path Adrian represented beckoned him to return to a numbness he had finally begun to dismantle. What's it going to be? Adrian's name pulsed under his thumb, as if mocking his uncertainty. Mark inhaled deeply, turning the phone in his hand as if it was alight with an unholy flame. "It's my past," he muttered, shaking his head, trying to force urgency into his internal conflict. "But can I solidify my future without it?" "You have a choice to make, Mark," Mrs. Malone interjected, her voice steady, yet filled with expectation. "Every single moment is a choice. Whether or not you want to engage with your past is part of shaping who you want to be in your future." The weight of her words cascaded through him, mingling with doubt and an unyielding desire to change. But what if returning to that world provides stability? What if Adrian offers opportunities I could use to help these kids? He questioned, seeking validation even as he grappled with a sinking sorrow at the prospect of slipping back. He might. Her eyes tightened, and for a moment he saw the fissures of her own past experiences breaking through her usually composed demeanor. But what you need now is authenticity. If you think money will solve the complexities of these kids' lives, you'll only deepen the chasm of your own. He was starting to see it, the cracks lining the polished image he had so vigorously maintained. This venture wouldn't just reintroduce him to the old Mark, it threatened to drown him in the arrogance of self-importance and all that came with it. "But what if I could leverage it for good?" he pressed, desperation coloring his voice. Mark's mind raced, sketches of scenarios playing out, but every vision of success felt hollow when weighed against the prospect of genuine connection. Mrs. Malone placed a hand on her chest, as if warding off his spiraling thoughts. "If you engage with these kids, they'll teach you more about resilience than any amount of investment ever could. Invest in them first, Mark, and you'll find out what you're really capable of." An inner conflict flared within him, igniting a flickering resolve to follow a path more arduous than financial success. What if the days spent learning and connecting with the kids would lead to an experience richer than anything he could purchase? "What do I need to do?" The resolve in his voice surprised even him. "Show up this Saturday. Listen. Only then will you know how to sound the praises of their potential. No investment, just your presence." Each word felt like a stone cast into the still waters of his reflection. The ripples judged him, daring him to choose a different course. He needed to face his fears, the shadows of his past, and the sustainable vision for his future coiling around him. As he pocketed the phone without answering, a sense of clarity washed over him. He would start with Mrs. Malone's call for authenticity, but darkness still loomed. In the quiet place of his mind, Adrian's offer remained, a phantom pulsing just below the surface. Mark stood at the threshold of transformation, a new chapter poised like an unanswered question. Would the innocence of connection and the struggle for renewal be enough to anchor him, or would the lure of the past prove too strong? As he met Mrs. Malone's probing gaze, the gravity of his decision settled around him, heavy yet exhilarating. The exhilaration of a new calling shimmered in the distance, but with it came the fear of tossing away what could be a lifeline. What if every moment spent away from the familiar promise of wealth led him to discover something he never thought possible? The impending Saturday loomed large, casting shadows of uncertainty and hope. Mark's heart raced with questions about the children, their stories still untold, the authenticity he longed to embrace. But now, with one more decision looming, he felt the shadows close in on him again. Something dark lingered around the corner, waiting to pull him back. Would he truly commit to this path? Or would he be forced to face the lingering grip of ambition that still held him captive? The shadows of mistrust and the echoes of old alliances beckoned, but Mark was getting closer to unearthing the strength he needed to break free. Mark woke early Saturday, the sunlight breaking through the curtains like a hesitant invitation. His mind raced with images of the kids he'd promised to meet, their lives he barely understood but felt drawn to explore. The prospect both excited and terrified him. It was akin to standing at the edge of a diving board, peering into the depths below, unsure if he would sink or swim. He dressed deliberately, the act of choosing his clothes transformed into a ritual of intention. Each article was a tactile reminder of his commitment to authenticity. No tailored suits today, just simple, casual wear that spoke less of wealth and status. He buttoned his shirt, took a long look in the mirror, and questioned who he saw reflected back. This version of Mark felt tentative, yet underneath, a current of determination surged. As he drove through neighborhoods he once looked down upon, the stark contrast of his surroundings highlighted the isolation he had built around himself. His heart was heavy with the weight of their stories, untold and waiting. What complexities had he missed while absorbed in his own self-made milieu? The vibrant graffiti murals and the laughter spilling from playgrounds felt like whispers of resilience, urging him to engage. Arriving at the community center, Mark felt an unfamiliar restlessness. He glanced at the facade, a little worn, but bursting with life. He stepped inside, greeted immediately by a cacophony of chatter and vivid energy. Children darted about, their laughter punctuating the air, as if it were music composed for this very moment. Drawing a deep breath, he approached a cluster of kids, drawing on large sheets of paper. Colors splashed vibrantly as their imaginations overflowed onto the canvas. A little girl, noticing him, stopped her work, her eyes widening as she confided, "You look like someone I know." Mark chuckled gently, his nerves easing just a touch. "Who do I remind you of?" "A hero," she declared, and the other children peeked up from their projects, mirroring her excitement. His heart swelled. "And what makes a hero?" The children exchanged glances, the question igniting their thoughts. "Someone who listens," offered a boy, his confidence surprising. Those words struck sharp and true. Listening was exactly what they needed, and perhaps what he himself had overlooked in his relentless pursuit of more. "Can I join you?" he asked, a newfound eagerness coloring his voice. As they welcomed him into their circle, he felt the weight of his past, Adrian's proposal, the allure of wealth, shifting into the background. Instead of pursuing a business strategy, he found himself swept up in a flow of creativity and hope. Each child's pencil stroke a testament to their resilience. Hours slipped away as they shared stories of their dreams, their fears, their everyday lives. Mark was no longer the outsider, but a participant reveling in the vibrancy of their experiences. Each tale peeled back layers of his guarded self, revealing insecurities he hadn't acknowledged. They exposed the depth of his own desire for connection, a longing he had buried beneath layers of ambition and material success. But with every moment spent building this newfound relationship, the specter of his past loomed closer. Adrian's offer nagged at the edges of his mind, promising a stability that felt increasingly foreign to him now. The tension mounted, threatening to tip the delicate balance he was cultivating with the kids. Would this brief encounter remind him of his purpose, or would the fading allure of his former life entrap him once again? As he prepared to leave, one child handed him a crayon-colored drawing, a clumsy figure with a smile, labeled simply, "Friend." In that moment, the complexities began rolling into clarity. Real connections were far more potent than any deal worth millions. But as he stepped out of the bustling center, an unexpected figure caught his eye. Adrian stood leaning against his car, arms crossed, a knowing smirk playing on his lips. Mark's heart raced, the dichotomy of choices looming larger than ever before. What had the confrontation with Adrian now awakened in him? Would he continue to pursue the richness of connection, or would the whisper of ambition claw back into focus? Mark felt the pull of fate, a pivotal choice on the horizon, one that could redefine everything he thought he knew about himself. Mark stood frozen for a moment, the air around him thick with unresolved tension. Adrian's smug expression seemed to punctuate his own internal chaos, the remnants of laughter and creativity from the kids flooding through his mind's eye. It felt like an invisible tether was straining between his past and present, as if the weight of his former life was dragging him backwards. Adrian pushed off the car, striding toward him with an air of authority. "I knew you'd come around. I had a feeling this charity gig wouldn't hold your interest for too long," he quipped, his tone dripping with condescension. Mark forced a smile, but inside his stomach churned. "It's not just a charity," he corrected, trying to explain the gravity of what he had experienced. He sought to convey the understanding he'd gained, but the words tangled on his tongue, caught in the web of his own uncertainty. "It's about connection, about—" "Connection," Adrian interrupted, a sharp laugh escaping his lips. "Come on, Mark. You know that's not why you became who you are. You're a businessman, not some kind of life coach." Each word struck like a cold gust of wind, rattling the walls Mark had constructed around his identity. "But maybe that's the problem," he finally managed, a quiet resilience rising within him. If he truly wanted to redefine himself, it wouldn't be about dismissing his past, but embracing a new perspective where ambition aligned with authenticity. Adrian's amusement faltered for a split second. A hint of confusion flitted across his face. "Look, I'm just saying we both know you have opportunities that could set you up for life. This? It's just a distraction." The sensation of Adrian's patronizing certainty began to chip away at Mark's newfound resolve. Distraction? What if I want more than just the numerical success in my life? What if connection is exactly what I've been missing? The words poured out before he could second-guess himself. Adrian narrowed his eyes, the smirk quickly replaced by a calculated look. "What, you think you can save them or something? You've spent too long in your ivory tower to know what's going on down here." The jab stung deeply. It dawned on Mark that Adrian wasn't merely opposing his choices, he was challenging his very understanding of worth and success. The very foundation that had once defined him was on shaky ground, and he felt as though he teetered on the edge of a vast chasm. His heartbeat quickened as the echoes of laughter and dreams he'd witnessed that afternoon reminded him that success could indeed mean something different. It could mean transcendence. "Adrian, it's not about saving anyone," Mark countered, channeling his inner conviction. "It's about being present, about truly understanding the lives of those who aren't just numbers on a balance sheet. Maybe I'm finding out who I am outside of making deals." Adrian brushed off Mark's words like crumbs from a table. "Keep dreaming, Mark, but when the bills come, let's see how far that takes you." As Adrian turned to walk away, doubt slithered back into Mark's mind, threatening to crush this fragile change he'd embraced. But just as despair loomed, the image of the child's drawing he had received, the one labeled friend, flashed before him. It had felt real, meaningful. It was hope etched in crayon. He inhaled deeply, clearing the fog in his thoughts. He had decisions to make, paths to forge, and with each step he took away from Adrian and his crumbling ambitions, he could feel the fear slowly dissipate. A new direction awaited him, albeit uncertain and daunting, yet brimming with the potential of rediscovery. But in that newfound clarity, a question began to unfurl in his mind. Could he truly let go of the safety net Adrian represented? Would the allure of connection withstand the existential weight of insecurity? As he turned to leave, his phone buzzed in his pocket. It was a message from one of the kids, a simple picture of their drawing, shared with the words, "Can you come back? We want to show you more." Mark's heart tugged. The choice stood monumental before him. Would he answer the call of genuine connection, or would he revert to the comfort of measured success? The decision loomed larger than life. This was the moment that could reshape everything, a crossroads with no easy answers, only the relentless pursuit of meaning. The time had come to face his true self, and it filled him with a mixture of fear and exhilarating anticipation. What awaited him if he ventured further down this uncertain path? Mark paused at the edge of the sidewalk, his heart hammering with uncertainty as he stared at his phone. The message flickered like a challenge, an invitation to confront the very fears he had begun to unpack. The child's enthusiasm radiated through the screen and tugged at something deep within him, something that craved authenticity rather than routine. The world around him faded, the honks of passing cars and distant chatter dulling into a background hum. He felt an unfamiliar grip of vulnerability, yet for the first time a flicker of excitement ignited within him. He was tired of trading his essence for the hollow gleam of success, tired of drowning in the murky waters of expectations that felt imposed rather than self-chosen. In that moment, Mark made a decision. He would respond to the drawing and the child's vibrant plea. With a quick tap, he typed a reply, committing to return. What awaited him there? He couldn't fully understand the implications of this choice, but he felt an undeniable pull toward it. As he drove back to the community center, anticipation surged through his veins. Each red traffic light became a metaphor for the obstacles he'd placed in his own path for too long. Leaving behind the corporate world and all its flags of importance felt like shedding a weight he no longer wanted to carry. Mark promised himself to approach this visit with an open heart, prepared to embrace whatever lessons awaited him. Walking into the center, the air was infused with laughter and art. The walls adorned with bright, expressive murals made by little hands. The vibrant creativity of it all enveloped him like a warm embrace, invigorating yet disarming. Children scampered around, their joyous chatter creating a triumphant symphony that contrasted sharply with the corporate landscape he had just escaped. A few faces brightened upon his arrival, and he was soon surrounded by the eager young artists. They held up their latest creations with pride, each adorned with color and imagination, free from the constraints of the adult world. Look at my dragon," one exclaimed, while another thrust forward a picture of a superhero saving not just the world, but a cat stuck in a tree. Mark knelt down, heart swelling at the sight. In their innocent enthusiasm lay the essence of connection he had craved, a sense of community that felt both novel and essential. Here, success was defined by the joy in their expressions rather than their fiscal achievements. "You're back!" a girl exclaimed, her eyes bright and hopeful. "We need your help with our project." The request stirred something within him. With every task assigned, he began to unravel the threads of his former expectations and weave in the unfamiliar fabric of collaboration and creativity. Working together, they created a mural that represented who they aspired to be, rather than what they were told to be. In the midst of paint and laughter, Mark caught himself lost in the rhythm of creation, free from judgment and numbers. It was exhilarating to contribute not just as a business owner, but as a mentor, someone who cared about the dreams these kids held. But as the day unfolded, A shadow of doubt lurked in the corners of his mind. The vague worries about money, reputation, and the looming corporate world crept back like a whisper. Just as he felt the tether to Adrian and his expectations tighten again, a child turned to him and asked, "Why do you care so much about us?" The straightforwardness of her question sliced through his self-doubt. "Because," he started, his voice momentarily lost, struggling to articulate the new identity blooming within him. "Because I'm beginning to remember what's important. I want to connect, to be part of something that matters." In that statement he grasped a foundational truth. His journey was refusing complacency, embracing uncertainty, and kindling genuine relationships. Yet the tension within him remained palpable as he recognized the battle was far from over. As he stood amidst the children, a sense of resolve cemented itself. This emerging identity, one shaped by connection rather than transactional success, left him with a stark realization. He was on the brink of a transformative evolution, but at what cost? Could he continue to grow in this new environment while still addressing the nagging remnants of his previous life? The day closed with laughter and promises of future projects, but as Mark arrived home, the weight of his choices returned. A choice lay ahead that might define not only his future, but his understanding of himself. Would he fully immerse himself in this new world, knowing it would demand everything? Or would fear lead him back to the comfort of his old life? The stakes had never been higher, and with the uncertainty before him, Mark felt a thrilling recognition. The real journey was just beginning. As Mark sat in the dim light of his living room, he felt the weight of the evening's events pressing down on him, heavy and relentless. The laughter of the children echoed in his mind, mingled with doubts that seeped in like unwanted fog. He winced as he thought about Adrian and the corporate commitments looming like specters in his consciousness. The familiar cycle of ambition had always provided clarity, yet now it felt like an iron fist constricting his breath. Fidgeting with a paint-stained brush he had carelessly tossed onto the coffee table, he grappled with the stark contrast between his past and the sea of colors that surrounded him now. Emmanuel, the child who had insisted he return, remembered him for more than just his previous titles. That acknowledgement rekindled a flicker of hope within him, yet the fear of failure weighed heavily. Was he ready to fully embrace this path of creativity and mentorship, or was he destined to revert to the predictive patterns of his old life for security? As dawn broke the next day, an uneasy resolve pushed him from bed. Determined not to slide back into the comfortable, automated routines that defined his previous role, he committed to spending the morning reflecting on what he truly wanted. He found himself sitting at a cafe, gazing at a blank notebook before him, its pages symbolic of both potential and uncertainty. He took a deep breath and began to write, not with the precision of a business proposal, but with the openness of a child scribbling dreams. Each word felt like an unearthing, visions of inspiring young minds, transformative art, and engaging activities unfolded across the pages. His heart raced with a confusing blend of excitement and terror as he penned an unambiguous commitment to this newfound direction. But alongside this act of declaration simmered a nagging twinge of desperation. Could these dreams truly materialize? Was he equipped to be the guiding light these children might need? When the writer's block loomed, he glanced outside, catching the fleeting smiles of passerby children who reminded him of the vibrant young spirits he had met. They illuminated his reality with hopeful innocence, contrasting sharply against the cold corporate ambition that had once driven him. The weight of his decision settled further into his being. He felt compelled to act. The time had come to confront his financial preoccupations. Everything hinged on what he was willing to risk. Would he reach out to Adrian and risk his support? Or would he take a step into the unknown alone, trusting his instincts to propel him forward? Back at the community center, he approached his colorful mural with renewed enthusiasm. It wasn't merely a canvas now. It represented the fusion of his defining moments, a stronghold capable of growing into a tapestry of diverse aspirations. The children beamed with pride at their work, seeking guidance, direction, and a safe space where they could dream without boundaries. Mark found himself swept up in their energy, each brushstroke an act of defiance against the rigidity of his former life. Yet as he immersed himself in this collaborative space, he found himself confronting a sense of inadequacy. He recognized the weight of each choice he had made led him here, but he was struck by the possibility that he wasn't totally equipped to nurture their creativity. The revelation hit hard. Embracing vulnerability would require him to forsake the metrics of success he had clung to for so long. "Mr. Mark, are you okay?" A soft voice broke through his thoughts. It was Janelle, the same girl who had spoken to him before. Her concern punctured through his layer of doubts, forcing him to face the reality of his own insecurities more intimately. Could he articulate his journey without sounding like he had all the answers? I'm just thinking about how we can make this even better," he smiled, though the truth rattled within him. Deep down, he knew this was just the beginning of an unraveling that would break the confines of his previous life. That evening, under the pretense of dinner with a few colleagues, an unexpected text from Adrian shifted his focus. An opportunity had arisen, one that could tether him back to his previous lifestyle. But at what cost? With a sense of dread, he considered the implications, recognizing that the decision he faced wasn't merely professional. It was personal, threading through every nuance of his identity. Would he choose the comforting familiarity of his past, or cement his commitment to a future that embraced risk and creativity? As the screen glowed brightly against the darkening sky, he knew chaos and clarity danced dangerously close. The heart of the matter was whether he would take the leap or anchor himself in the ways he thought he knew best. And with the next tick of the clock, the decision loomed larger than ever. What would he choose? Mark sat on the edge of his bed, the morning light filtering through the curtains, casting long shadows in the room. The text from Adrian remained displayed on his phone, the opportunity dancing like a tantalizing bait, pulling him back toward the comfort of corporate success. He glanced at his untouched palette strewn across the table, colors yet to be blended, dreams yet to be painted. The whirlwind of conflicting emotions churned in his gut. Questioning himself had become a precursor to the rituals of his past, but he fought against the familiar pull. He needed to confront this discomfort head-on, to emerge on the other side with clarity. Taking a deep breath, Mark rose and dressed, settling on worn jeans and a paint-stained sweater. Each piece felt like armor, signifying a step away from the corporate facade he had maintained for so long. He knew he wouldn't find answers in the confines of his home. He needed to engage with the outside world, directly and authentically. At the community center, he was greeted by the vibrant sounds of laughter and chatter, a stark contrast to the sterile silence that had accompanied his corporate life. Janelle was already at the mural, her hands smeared with colors, a canvas of chaos and creation surrounding her. Seeing her immersed in the art ignited something within him. She was living in the moment, free of doubt or constraint. "Mr. Mark, look!" She pointed excitedly at a section of the mural where she had painstakingly painted a sun, a blazing yellow orb, radiating rays of bold colors. "That's incredible, Janelle," Mark replied, taking a step closer. "It's like the sun is smiling down on all of us." "I want to add more colors. Can we do that together?" she asked, eyes wide, radiating hope. Perhaps what he needed was right in front of him. A chance to risk his insecurities for the reward of connecting with these children. What if he allowed their unfiltered creativity to guide him too? The prospect felt freeing, yet terrifying. "Of course," he said, his heart racing as he picked up a brush. As they painted, Mark found himself lost in the rhythm of each stroke, insecurities threatening to bubble up, but dissipating in the joy of creation. It was less about producing a final product and more about the transformative process of being present. He caught the eyes of other children, their eagerness palpable, and realized this was not just about art, it was about identity and acceptance. They wanted him to guide them, but was he ready to accept that leadership role? Could he abandon the metrics of success that had defined him for so long? For the next hour, time slipped away. He transfixed on their laughter, their chatter. With each passing moment, Mark felt layers of his corporate identity peeling back, revealing not merely an artist, but a mentor, an explorer of creative landscapes alongside them. When he looked over the mural, he saw a narrative unfolding, not dictated, though ambition, but woven through collective aspirations. Yet as exhilaration pulsed through him, the lingering thought of Adrian's offer crept in. Closing his eyes, Mark willed himself to acknowledge the shadows it cast in his mind. Could he both claim his creative journey and retain the comforts of his past? A life free from financial worries, but saturated with illusion. In the moment of clarity, he plucked up the courage to voice his inner doubts aloud. What if I start guiding you more? What if we planned a show where we could share our art with others? What do you think? A chorus of yes erupted from the children, a galvanizing cheer that echoed through the room. Their enthusiasm became fuel, propelling him forward, yet doubt gathered in the back of his mind. Was he truly ready to step into this mentorship fully? As Janelle smiled broadly, Mark felt the ambivalence rise within him again. Would he risk losing his connection to the corporate world for the chance to inspire these young voices? What if he faltered? Just then, Mark's phone buzzed again with another message from Adrian. It was an urgent call for a meeting, a chance to discuss the proposal that could ensure financial stability, an invitation back into the familiar. The gulf between the two worlds felt wider than ever, each path illuminated, yet laden with uncertainty. He stood at a crossroads, the brush poised in his hand, heart racing, not just with excitement, but the weight of a pivotal decision looming over him as the children waited, a world of potential within their pleading gazes. Would he take a step towards a future fueled by passion, or let himself be drawn back into the clutches of a past success that no longer served him? Mark Thompson stood in front of the mural, drenched in vibrant color and surrounded by the laughter of children. As he stepped back to survey the artwork, a surge of clarity washed over him. This wasn't just paint on a wall, it was a testament to growth, collaboration, and a shared identity that transcended his former life as a polished millionaire. Every stroke he made alongside Janelle and the others peeled back the layers of his professional armor. Once he had equated success with financial gain and societal standing, but now each painted sun and swirling rainbow represented the true essence of fulfillment, connection, hope, and the joy of creating something meaningful. This wasn't merely a project, it was a revival of purpose and identity. "Can we do more work like this, Mr. Mark?" a child asked, her paint-streaked hands resting on her hips, brimming with anticipation. "You bet we can," he replied, his voice steady, a sense of confidence resonating within him. "This is just the beginning. Together we can create something that inspires others to dream big." With those words, a profound transformation crystallized within him. No longer was he a man burdened by guilt or ravaged by fear. Instead, Mark emerged as a leader rooted in authenticity, committed to harnessing his experience not for personal accolades, but to cultivate a space where the children could flourish. The weight of his past beckoned once more. Adrian's call, tempting and familiar, still lingered in his pocket. Yet, as he witnessed the joy radiating from their faces, the shadows of self-doubt faded. This was where he belonged, in the realm of growth and possibility. Arriving home later that evening, the thoughts of Adrian's lucrative opportunity nagged at his mind like an itch. but they no longer held power over him. He sat at his desk, mapping out ideas for the mentorship program he wished to launch. "Every Saturday," he scribbled, heart pounding with exhilarating resolve. "Art workshops, science fairs, scholarships. The kids will know their potential, and we will build from there." As dawn broke the next day, the certainty washed over him. He would not only elevate his commitment to the children, but he would also regretfully reject Adrian's proposal. The thought no longer scared him. It relieved him. With that decision locked in his mind, Mark crafted a message to Adrian. He articulated his reasons for withdrawing, ensuring he conveyed it with respect. Ultimately, he highlighted the emerging venture he hoped to cultivate, assuring Adrian that while the opportunity was tempting, his focus had shifted towards something more substantial, a commitment to invest in the lives of children like Sam, a mission born from remembrance and accountability. As he pressed send, a sense of liberation enveloped him. This was no longer the Mark Thompson who feared public opinion or the judgment of former friends. He had codified his priorities, recognizing that true wealth emerged not from his bank account, but from the connections he fostered. Weeks later, standing in front of a large crowd at the community center, he felt a surge of pride. The once simple mural had transformed into a showcase, an exhibition representing the dreams of young artists from underprivileged backgrounds. "It is with heartfelt pleasure today," Mark began, his voice resonating, "that we celebrate the stories and talents of these extraordinary children." Cheers erupted as his eyes caught sight of Janelle's beaming face in the crowd, a reminder of what had inspired him. The community rallied around this initiative, cultivating mentorship, expression, and opportunity, breathing fresh air into aspirations previously dulled by hardship. "The path to success may diverge from the traditional everyone expects," he declared, "but I stand here today to affirm that the true measure of worth lies in our ability to uplift others." As the applause intermingled with a palpable sense of hope, Mark felt gratitude swell within him. He had moved from a man lost in his own success to a beacon of change, someone who had conquered the illusions of grandeur to build a life cultivated in connection and transparency. In that moment, he knew he had arrived at a resolution, a solid foundation tied not to money, but to the laughter, dreams, and vibrant resilience of the children he had begun to call his own. It was a transformation forged in action and intention. It breathed life into a future, overflowing with every shade of possibility. Now it was time for you to play a part in these powerful stories. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, ensuring these tales thrive for everyone to discover. Comment your reactions and theories about this transformative journey. Your engagement matters. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. This is the moment to show your support and join a community that celebrates personal overcoming stories. Don't wait even one more second to share.